Hi there, I'm the Mythkeeper. Welcome back to my channel, the best place on the internet for Pathfinder lore and history. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. And if there's anything you'd like me to talk about in particular, let me know in the comments below. This week we're continuing my religion series, and I've continued to explore other types of fiendish outsiders that reside not necessarily in the outer planes. And this week we're going to talk about the nefarious Rakshasa. It's a fun video. Enjoy.
The history of the Rakshasa. The Rakshasa are not native to the Inner Sea region. Legend attributes the origin of these fiends to a singular progenitor, a remarkably powerful and avaricious Vudrani sorcerer king, who aspired to secure an eternal existence filled with hedonistic pleasures and absolute control. While the specifics regarding the legendary figure's chronology and deeds vary by source, a common narrative thread emerges, outlining their history. There once lived in Vudra a powerful sorcerer named Maka Abhikara. At a certain juncture in his life, Maka became fixated on his own mortality. He is, of course, not the first to have come to grow angry at the limited lifespans placed on mortals by the gods. He understood well that his spirit would endure even in death, and that there would be an afterlife chosen by the gods, and an evolution of his spirit. But he spurned the notion of any afterlife that would lead to the dissolution of his current self, even if it were to be a paradise. He was, of course, not the first to have these ideas, but he rejected many of the avenues considered by other like-minded arcanists. He found the prospect of undeath unbecoming, and similarly rejected the prospect of transferring his consciousness to some kind of construct form, and thereby deny himself the pleasures of the flesh. Instead, Maka developed a collectivist concept known as the Dhruva Jivita, or eternal rebirth, guaranteed reincarnation through an alliance of bound spirits. His concept was sound, but from an arcane standpoint, technically complex. In pursuit of his ambitious goal, Maka needed to amass life force beyond his own. As the ruler of a vast stronghold in Vudra, this was something well within his reach. He expanded his domain through a series of brutal wars. Accompanied by his army, Maka relished in the diverse experiences offered by the people he conquered, embracing new sights, scents, and cultural entertainments. With each conquest, he initiated the practice of feasting on the mightiest heroes of his vanquished foes, turning each banquet into a complex ritual where he absorbed the life force of these fallen foes and distributed that life force around, forging a mystical connection between himself and his generals. After a prolonged existence marked by consumption, depredation, and avarice, despite his powerful magics, age inevitably and inexorably drained him of power, and even Maka's mighty spells could no longer sustain his frail form. Maka summoned his generals and offered each an animal, designating them as guides on a grand journey. While traditions differ regarding the specific animals offered to the generals, the consensus is that Maka chose a tiger as his own guide. He elucidated that as long as one of them survived, the others would be reincarnated, because their spirits had all been linked. Maka then killed and consumed his tiger. This was his final act of that life before succumbing to death. Most stories recount the horror and disbelief of the generals at Maka's actions, with each subsequently attempting to seize control of his empire. Infighting ensued, ultimately tearing the empire apart. Only one of his generals, Gopa Citracina, a spear warrior given a mongoose for a guide, rejected Maka's laws as evil and endeavored to build a new kingdom. Some years later, a young sorcerer emerged, 2 decades after Maka's demise. Immune to weapons, resilient against spells, and a master of deception, Purusov embarked on a mission of reconquering Maka Abhikara's empire and propagating the philosophy of Dhruva Jivita. Among his adherents, Purusov was understood to be none other than the reincarnation of Maka, proof that his method of eternal reincarnation had worked. However, an aging Gopa Citracina, accompanied by his grey-furred mongoose, thwarted Purusov in a climactic battle atop the spires of Jayat Von, the Purusov capital, which was shrouded in black, jungle-choked expanse. In their final confrontation, both combatants perished, but of course Maka's surviving generals knew this sacrifice was in vain, holding fast to the knowledge that as long as one of them lived, Maka would return in time. These generals became the first Rakshasa. With the propagation of this dark philosophy, more wicked souls have been elevated to the vaunted status of Rakshasa since that time, perpetuating their existence like a malevolent contagion upon Golarion. Because educating mortals on the path to becoming a new Rakshasa ensures their survival, the number of Rakshasa has slowly grown since Maka's generals became the first immortals among their kindreds. However, because more Rakshasas creates more additional competition, the rate at which these fiends have multiplied has been intentionally stymied by the Rakshasa. One thing they have done, however, is begun to spread across the world of Golarion. First they spread from Vudra across Casmaran, then they began to crop up in Tianxia and the Inner Sea region as well. In the Inner Sea, the largest concentration of Rakshasa can be found on Jalmaray Island. The Rakshasas of Jalmaray propagate the poetic notion that they arrived on the island through the shadowed hearts of mortals seeking power and dominion. Beyond this, they have an extensive foothold now across the Impossible Lands, and the Golden Road, including prominently in the lands of Kadira, Katapesh, and Thuvia. In a mockery of Vudrani castes, these Rakshasas continue to categorize their own kind and those mortals they see as beneath them according to their own unique set of qualifications. The Rakshasa caste system is as follows. The Goshta caste. This caste literally translates as food and applies to almost all non-Rakshasa. Rakshasa consider all mortals to be essentially disposable, to be used to serve their whims and discarded just as easily when their function is complete. The Paradeshi. Translating as Rakshasa-kin, this caste covers evil non-Rakshasas that are powerful enough to be considered worthy of respect. This caste also includes all tieflings of the beast brood heritage, that is, the half-caste children of Rakshasa and mortal kind. Powerful Rakshasa lords see those beast brood tieflings that can hide or disguise their fiendish features as particularly valuable, as potential infiltrators or agents in mortal societies. While very few Rakshasa do anything out of the kindness of their hearts, some do ask less of those they take a liking to. They may even become doting on occasion. This special treatment happens most often when they share a familial connection, seeing something of themselves in a beast brood or recognizing their potential for greatness. The Darshaka caste. Darshaka is the servant caste, the lowest caste a young Rakshasa can be born into. Because the ruling Rakshasa lords are so cruel to their Darshaka juniors, young unestablished Rakshasas often prefer to serve corrupt Paradeshi mortals, a disposition that seems to invert the proper caste order. It's easy to understand why. Their combat prowess, shape-shifting abilities, and infernal resilience makes them valuable to mortals as bodyguards, mercenaries, and so on. Hakima caste. These powerful Rakshasa lords form their own secluded communities, where they rule over the Darshaka caste with an iron fist. Such communities may also include a large number of mortals of both Paradeshi and Goshta caste, with the Goshta caste typically serving as slaves. Some Hakima caste Rakshasa don't hide their communities, but are prominent and well known. For example, the pirate lord Bedu Hanji of the Shackles owns a large stretch of islands in the archipelago, and is well recognized as a high lord even outside Rakshasa circles. Samrata caste. The lords of lords are the most powerful Rakshasa emperors. These lords rule over not just small communities, but connected networks of communities, sometimes being the puppet masters of secret empires that stretch across the length and breadth of Casmaran and Galarian at large. The Rakshasa immortals. Beyond even the Samrata are the Rakshasa immortals, most of which are counted among the original generals of Maka Abhikara. They have transcended their station as living fiends and acquired a measure of dark divinity. I will discuss these Rakshasa demigods at the end of the video. Finally, there is a special seventh caste. In some ways, this caste is considered even lower than the Goshta class, though they are not so denigrated and are viewed through a slightly different lens by most Rakshasa. The Pagala caste. Considered to be the heirs of the heretical legacy of the traitor Gopa Citrasena, this caste is reserved for those Rakshasas who are deemed to act in a manner antithetical to Rakshasa ideals. These traitors have come to reject the principles of Dhruva Jivita and wish to bring about an end to the reign of the immortals. Other Rakshasa find them to be fundamentally hypocritical, eager to have accepted the power of the Rakshasa that came with their most sacred rights, but then choosing to reject the consumptive cruelty that sustains them. Few mortals are aware of these renounced Rakshasa, and not surprisingly, these reclusive individuals keep to themselves, avoiding both fellow Rakshasa and mortals alike. The breeds of Rakshasa. From the Darshaka caste to the Hakima caste to the mighty Samrata lords, the Rakshasa have transcended their humanity in their commitment to Maka Abhikara's dark teachings. These dark fiends cloak themselves in the guises of humanoid creatures that they might walk unseen among their prey, yet they have inhuman natural forms as well. These forms evolve over time as the Rakshasa gain in power, and as such a wide range of Rakshasa exist ranging in power from the dangerous but conquerable to such monstrous fiends that archangels and archdevils would second-guess a confrontation with them. Raktavarna. The least of all Rakshasas, Raktavarnas are typically the result of a failed reincarnation ritual, in which the original mortal soul is not fully preserved. Nevertheless, Raktavarnas can grow in power, and eventually they too can ascend to greater forms. Raktavarnas resemble wicked serpents with glowing red eyes and oversized fangs. Often forced into service by mortal conjurers or more powerful Rakshasa, Raktavarnas frequently act subservient to their masters while secretly plotting to overthrow them. Dandusakas. Known as biters among the more powerful Rakshasa castes, Dandusakas serve as spies and assassins for Rakshasa clans or powerful mortal Paradeshi caste spellcasters. Born to manipulate and murder, these half-sized terrors revel in their work and delight in the sight of blood. They often dress in extravagant clothes, dyed with ostentatious colors, and wear numerous elaborate accessories, whether in their true form or in disguise as human children, halfling merchants, or anything else that helps them blend into their target society. A Dandusaka Rakshasa is constantly haunted by a monstrous hunger that gnaws at its hyperactive body, forcing it to feed often. In combat, a Dandusaka might pause to lick a bloody blade or lap at a pool of spilled blood on the floor. These creatures settle for other meat when they must, but they most prefer the taste of mortal flesh. Regular offers of such victuals can keep a Dandusaka loyal to anyone willing to provide frequent meals, but care must be taken in keeping a Dandusaka, for many stories tell of them being overly eager to serve an adored benefactor, taking offhand remarks too literally, and performing services of violence that were never intended. Raja Rakshasa. The most common breed of Rakshasa is also already a significantly powerful entity. When not disguised as a humanoid, the Raja has the head of an animal, and its hands are more subtly unsettling, for the fingers of these fiends bend outwards rather than inwards, away from the palms. Raja heads often resemble those of cats or snakes, but they can also be similar to apes, jackals, vultures, elephants, mantises, lizards, rhinos, boars, and more are possible. In most cases, the type of head a Raja possesses symbolizes its personality. A tiger-headed one is stealthy and ravenous, while a boar-headed one might be gluttonous and crude. More than any other type of Rakshasa, Rajas scoff at religion. They understand the power of the divine, yet they view themselves as the only things worthy of worship from mortal creatures. Rajas often form close-knit families that work together to bring down mortal cities or to rule them from the shadows within. Such families of Rakshasas often incorporate other breeds of fiends, often using Dandusakas as favored servants or stealthy spies. Even though a Raja family often works together to achieve a shared goal, infighting and treachery among their own kind is a constant threat. Maharaja Rakshasa. The most powerful of all Rakshasas, Maharajas form very rarely, never more than once or twice a century, and only from the reincarnated spirits of other powerful and wicked Rakshasas. The birth of a new Maharaja is a momentous occasion, and less powerful Rakshasas will seek to curry favor with the new Maharaja at an early age. Each Maharaja is unique and boasts their own unique selection of spells and abilities. All are generally humanoid, but where a Raja has an animal head, a Maharaja has several heads. These always number at least 4, but can range up to a dozen. One of these heads tends to be humanoid, while the others take the form of cats, snakes, and other predatory animals. The Rakshasa Immortals. As mentioned earlier, once in a great while, a Rakshasa achieves a purity of evil that allows it to break free from the cycle of death and reincarnation and transcend its own mortality. The power of such Rakshasas approaches that of the gods. Unlike the other demigods I have described in my previous religion videos, the Rakshasa Immortals do not present themselves as having traditional areas of concern, or domains in game terms, for each of these immortals is concerned primarily with their own glory and power. They do, however, have the ability to grant spellcasting to their worshippers, just like any other god can. In game terms, all of these immortals grant spellcasters a standard set of domains, including the domains of trickery, evil, darkness, and animals. The known immortals are Aksha, the second breath. Aksha is a tiger-headed immortal associated with fire and smoke. Legends recount that she once bartered her soul to Mephistopheles for the ability to unleash hellfire at will, but escaped her fate by never allowing her soul to pass from this realm. Instead, she followed the path of the Dhruva Jivita until she ascended to the lofty rank of immortal. She is said to possess 2 heads, one for sibilant, silken speech, and the other for exhaling devastating cones of caustic fire, and in keeping with her twin heads, Aksha embodies a dualistic nature. Bundha, the singing butcher. Bundha is a corpulent Rakshasa immortal with a boar's head, 6 tusks, and 4 eyes. He indulges in a daily feast of raw meat, preferring to butcher his victims alive while singing in his rich, unnerving baritone. His disciples and followers show their dedication to him by consuming slabs of raw meat, and this helps them grow in size and power and makes them resistant to disease and poisons. Caera, the bloodbather. Caera possesses the head of a skinless, black-eyed wolf. Legend has it that she lost her fur and skin in a great battle when she earned her immortality, necessitating regular baths in the blood of the innocent to prevent her body from withering. Her followers make this a sacred ritual of theirs as well, and they can be found anointing their faces with the blood of their slain foes. Dradjit the Godslayer. Once a sycophantic servant of her own Rakshasa master, she eventually betrayed him, killed him, and took his place among the immortals. It is said she fashioned a necklace from his teeth, and these are rumored to fuel her immortality. Like her master, she has many dragon heads, and her followers often count draconic creatures among their allies. Hudima the Kinslayer. Hudima was once conjoined to a twin, but a fell pact allowed her to lure her sister into a torpid sleep and murder her. This gruesome act granted her sole control over the body and set her on the path to immortality. Her followers all share the same common trait of having betrayed and killed family members, forming a new family together of bloodletters and murderers. Jyotah, he who walks among the gods. Jyotah traveled to the realms of all the many divinities of Abaddon, Hell, and the Abyss, visiting with them and learning their ways before he achieved his own immortality. How a mortal wizard was able to travel to such dangerous places and traffic with such powerful entities without succumbing to their predations is not well understood, but he teaches his followers to venture into the dark unknown, bravely and without fear. Kunkarna the Dream Warrior. This bizarre immortal with mind-reading and psychic powers manifests as a translucent multi-headed spirit. It is said his life force is so powerful that he can rip the flesh of those he gazes upon with but a thought. His followers are encouraged to master their own life force as well, using it to perform unnatural and murderous acts. Mursha the Beastmaster. This enormous Rakshasa takes many forms, but is most common as 4 heads: bear, panther, shark, and jackal. He commands droves of these predatory beasts, and his followers are granted special mastery over summoned animals and can take the shape of beasts themselves. Otikaya the Spirit Archer. This hawk-headed Rakshasa possesses the unique ability to split his spirit into 1,000 pieces, each functioning as an identical clone of the original self. He does this to simultaneously attack his enemies or to perform multiple heinous acts at once, all across the great beyond. One unconfirmed rumor suggests that all versions of Otikaya ever encountered are clones, and that his true progenitor body is trapped somewhere in the world wound. Prihasta, the general between heaven and hell. This hound-headed immortal presents herself either as a hellhound or as a blink dog, depending on who she is speaking with. She is a master manipulator, and her followers are taught to speak honeyed words into the ears of noble creatures with the intent of poisoning their virtue. Ravana, the first and last. Reckoned to be the oldest Rakshasa immortal, Ravana has 4 arms and a tiger's head with 3 extra faces. Ravana has of course hinted on many occasions that he is none other than Maka Abhikara himself, but of course all Rakshasas are full of deceit and trickery, so he might simply have been one of Maka's elder generals when the secrets of Maka's philosophies were still getting understood. Regardless of whether he is indeed the first of their kind, he is certainly the most powerful Rakshasa immortal currently known of in Galarian. His particular power manifests as mastery over mind control, bending others, even the very powerful and immortal, to his own will. Surpa the Avenger. Surpa began on the path of the Rakshasa before she was tracked down and hanged for war crimes by her own people. They realized only too late that she had already shed her mortality when she reincarnated and slaughtered all those who had hung her and their descendants too. Surpa appeals particularly to the vengeful, and her followers recite the names of those who have wronged them and plot their brutal murder as they do so. Vibishah the Seeker. This Rakshasa immortal is called the Seeker because he is said to have spent 1,000 lifetimes searching for a fallen whisker rumored to have contained the soul of a wise shaman. Some great power was concealed there indeed, for finding the whisker is the act that caused Vibishah to ascend to the ranks of the immortals. Zabha the Desecrator. This rancid, foul-smelling Rakshasa immortal looks visually off-putting, but is among the most high-spirited immortals, taking great joy in blasphemy and grotesquerie, and boasting of having danced on the graves of 10,000 mortal saints. His followers are both obscene and joyous in their blasphemy. They particularly favor spells like hideous laughter that can cause hysterical compulsions in their targets.